this is the most important session you're going to hear today. Because, why? Because without development, right, nothing would exist. You wouldn't be watching anything almost, apart from like TikTok videos or whatever. Most content that you see around, whether it's YouTube, Netflix, the BBC, Channel 4, Disney, whatever, requires a lot of development. Not just a bit now, a lot of development. And the three of us, apart from all being from the north, we all heavily involved in development. So I'm Danny Horan. I run a company called Blast Films. We are a company that's been going about 30 years. I've been there about 3.5 years. I run the development team, but I also I manage the whole team and our strategy. But I'm also planning for the future of the company in terms of where we're heading, what content we're going to make, what platforms we're going to pitch to, etc. So I'm very heavily involved in development, and I've worked in a lot of different bits of the creative, bits of the industry, and I would say, and it'd be great to hear what you two think about this too later as we go on, is I think development is actually the hardest bit of television. I think it is also can be the most rewarding, can be the most frustrating, but can be incredibly inspiring. And that's why we're here today, right? We're going to give you, hopefully, a really inspiring session. So you're going to go away out of here and you're going to want to work in development. Years ago in television, people did not want to work in development. They wanted to everyone wanted to work in production. Development was seen as like something you did. This is, and I'm speaking from personal experience here. Like 20 years ago, when I was like on a downtime on a production, I was like, I'll just do a bit of development. It's fine, it's easy. I'll sit back and relax. No way is that the case now. You have to do an unbelievable amount of work, which we're going to get into. So let me introduce my brilliant sort of colleagues here, not colleagues, panelists. Musanna. Musanna is, bear with me here, I have got notes. So Musanna is a drama development exec working with Pure Fiction in London. So he's in scripted. He completed a degree in film and television at Nottingham before going to Barcelona for a year's traineeship in documentary, and then a circus route then took him to Pure Fiction, where you are now, where after 3 years, you've just had a big drama series greenlit for Sky.
That's correct.
Which you told us about off the record, but you're not allowed to talk about here, which is a shame because it sounds like a big series. So congratulations on that, well done. And then Fabian, so you have just finished a run at Multi-Story Pictures Productions in Manchester, and you work out of Manchester, right? You're in London, you work out of Manchester. We're all from the north, but you're still based up there, and you're now developing in the area of visualized podcasts.
I am.
Correct?
Yes. Yeah.
I don't know what that is, but great, and we'll definitely get into that. And your CV began with a month unpaid at Blue Peter.
It did, yeah.
Very good. And now includes a wide range of unscripted documentary and reality programming, first on the production side, now in development.
Yes.
Okay, let's start with your background. So you're both from the north of England, don't know whether I mentioned that. Neither of you had links to the creative industries. So well done for getting in and building a career. We all know that's really hard. I also, same as you, I'm way older than you, but I also knew nobody either, didn't know a soul in television. My family are definitely not in television. So I also started in a similar way to you two. How did you, though, decide what you wanted to do? Musanna, let's start with you.
It was going to the cinema for the first ever time in my life when I was 15 years old. I mean, the film was Grown Ups, the Adam Sandler film. So I say Adam Sandler changed my life. And it was going to that film and just seeing the sort of like power of storytelling, particularly through the medium of cinema. And that felt like a kind of a gateway into knowing that that's something that I just want to be able to do, to be able to give that feeling of inviting people to stories, into worlds, but by participating in that same process. But that coincided at the same time with this golden age of television. So when I went back home, I found that TV was where the more interesting stories
were. What era was that? What era?
2010, 11. Okay. Breaking Bad, Mad Men.
Okay. In scripted. Okay.
Yeah, scripted television.
Yeah.
And it was through there I just took a scenic route, which involved studying film and television at university, doing a documentary traineeship, as you mentioned, in Barcelona. Also working in film writing. I wrote for a number of outlets, including Total Film magazine.
Yeah.
Also did some programming as one of the Barbican's young film programmers. But throughout that route, I just found that I only had this answer in my head that if you want to work in scripted, you want to be a writer or a director or an actor, but I didn't really know about the roles beyond that. But through those roles, there were certain things that just kept synthesizing in my mind. Like in documentary, I most enjoyed when you develop a skeleton or a treatment. In film programming, I loved the curation and being able to sort of choose what stories get to the screen. And it was only by working at a production company, Big Talk Productions, where I was an office runner, and I was exposed to the development process that I realized this is the synthesis of all of those things. So that was how I found development, and I'm here now.
And you're not tempted to go into production. You development through and through. You love it.
I absolutely want to do production, but I think my skill set in finding ideas and working with people and nurturing them to the point of a green light is where I feel particularly my best skill set is.
Okay, good.
But let's see.
Great. Fabian, tell me about how you got into it, how you wanted to get into it and how you did it.
Well, you might remember many years ago that the BBC moved a lot of different departments up to Manchester to a sort of purpose-built complex called Media City UK. And when they did that, they were basically creating opportunities for local people to get into TV. It sounds a bit legal gentlemen, local jobs for local people. But yeah, they were creating these opportunities and they were running these unpaid work experience placements. So I was living at home. I was about to start a job in recruitment in London. And I was watching an Amanda Holden drama on a Sunday night called Wild at Heart. I don't know if any of you remember that. You might be too young.
They're too young. They're too young. They won't remember that.
And I turned to my mum and I said, do you know what? I said, I don't want to do this. I don't want to go to recruitment. And she said, what do you want to do? And I was watching TV and I said, well, I do really like TV actually. Maybe I could do that. And then from that, I think the next week I saw this kind of unpaid work experience placement at Blue Peter advertised, went for that and got it. And then I think it was about 9 months after I got my first paid job. But yeah, that month at Blue Peter was kind of the gateway.
That's really, it's good that you did, you went as unpaid. I don't advocate for unpaid work experience now. I actually don't think companies would do it now. Because I also had a similar thing. I was unpaid for 4 weeks at the BBC in Manchester. And then I just was like, refused to leave the building, basically. And then eventually got a sort of running job and then stayed at the BBC and then made my way up in the sort of fairly traditional route of telly, which is runner, researcher, assistant producer, producer, exec, and then beyond. So that's interesting. But then you went to work. What happened when you got in? So you went to Crackit?
Yeah, so I got in. So I did a few different jobs, and then I got into a company called Crackit. Crackit have an office in North, run by a lady called Kerry Briley, who was brilliant. And she offered me a job on a BBC One documentary series called Secret Life of the Hospital Bed. And that then ran into another job, which was a documentary about Poundland, then another documentary about OCD for Channel 5, and it kind of went that way. And I think that year and a bit I spent at Crackit was kind of the thing where I was like, okay, I'm on the ladder now. People know who I am. I started getting more jobs from there.
Yeah.
But that time at Crackit was, I think, the thing where I realized, right, I'm on the ladder now. I'm here. I think certainly Manchester's very different. Obviously, it's a lot smaller than London. So I think once your name is out there, people will start coming to you. But certainly before that time at Crackit, I was very much kind of going, I had periods of maybe a month, 2 months in between jobs. And then eventually, thanks to Crackit, thanks to Kerry Briley, I managed to get on the ladder and start getting regular work.
There's a good tip in there, which is find somebody who is going to mentor you.
Yeah.
You've got to find a sort of person who's going to basically advocate for you, champion you, help you get the next job, introduce you to other people. I definitely would not be here had I not had a couple of people like that really helping me. Somebody gave me a job moving to London, and then I still have a mentor now. I think mentors are unbelievably important in telly. You're going to play a clip in a minute, actually. We're going to show a clip of something that you developed. But just before we do that, just a quick thing before we show the clip is, what would be your thing around development? What do you think the key 1 or 2 skills are you need for being a good developer in development? Musanna, to start with you.
I think you have to genuinely love film and television, and by that I don't just mean watching it, but also engaging in which the context in which these films and TV shows are made, reading reviews, watching interviews, listening to podcasts, etc. And when you see the process of everything, I think you sort of understand development more.
Yeah.
I think that's a major one, just to sort of like engage with them beyond this is on the screen.
Resilience for me, because I mean 99.9% of the time you hear no, and you have commissioned that idea in your head. You've got a 6-part series for Netflix, but Netflix don't want it, and you hear no a lot. So I think resilience, knowing that that idea might not be the right idea, but other ideas will come. Definitely just kind of the ability to dust yourself off, pick yourself up and keep going, because it is a bit of a hamster wheel development.
It's totally true.
Yeah.
I would say like 9 times out of 10, your ideas don't go anywhere. And there's times when I've got 6 people in my development team. There's times when I feel like I should just go into the street and throw a lot of money in the street, and that might be better well spent than spending it in development. I don't know. But it is sort of like, it's so brilliant though, because you're right at the beginning of like the initial ideas, and you are in the development stage right at the beginning, trying to grow the concept, you're trying to grow the format, you're trying to bring people on board. So that's what's so brilliant about it. You're right at the concept stage.
There's nothing more satisfying, I think, than the stage you're talking about, that very, very early stage, then seeing it on screen. It's like, oh my God, I did that. I was part of that. I remember, sending that first paragraph to an exec to say, I think this is a really good idea. Then seeing it on screen, made, polished, it's amazing. It's the best feeling in the world, actually.
It's really fun. I agree with you. Okay, we're going to show a clip, but just to remind you all, because you would have known this from your previous session, that there's a couple of roving mics on either side here, and we are going to, because this is your session, so we do want to we want you to get as much as possible from it. So we're going to, after this, and Fabian tells us a bit about this clip, I might just throw to the floor to ask a couple of questions. So if you've got questions, can you be prepared? Because I'm going to throw to a couple of people. So prepare yourselves. Should we show the clip and then should we play it and then we'll explain afterwards? Okay, let's go.
House moving day, baby!
Hey, come on the boys!
Oh, what the?
I met the lads on Love Island.
Oh, yeah.
We might not have found the one, but we did find each other. And now we're brothers for life. It is a bit of a shock to the system when you go on a show like I did for 15 days, you come out and all of a sudden you've just got this totally new life and you have to kind of adjust to that. So it is nice to have people around that get it.
I used to be a firefighter, run into burning buildings, but now I do modelling, brand work. I've been on quite a few shows now.
I'm spending a lot of time doing presenting, having my own podcast now.
I'm just the tag-along mate, but it's a bit weird and strange. Having a good time. We're not exactly strangers to filming our lives.
So MTV have given us our own show.
But this time we decided to film it ourselves. It's to give you a view of our lives that you don't actually get to see every day.
This is new, unfiltered.
Oh my God.
Jesus! What can I say? We're living the dream.
Mostly naked men equals successful TV show?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
My kind of TV show.
Tell us a bit about, less about your personal life. Tell us a bit about your, about that.
So I was working at a company called True North, which is an amazing big production company based in Leeds. I was working in the Manchester office. I was working on another MTV series called Teen Mom UK in production, because I go between production and development. And lockdown hit. And basically they turned around to me, this team at True North, and said, we can't keep you on in a production role because we can't make this series. We can't go out there and film this series. The only way we can keep you on is if you go into development. Now that was music to my ears, because I had been trying to get into development for years and years and years, but it's a bit of an impenetrable fortress, I think, in Manchester to get into development sometimes. You want to get in, but the opportunities aren't there. So I was like, absolutely. And my thing was, obviously, I was making a sort of reality series. I wanted to develop a reality series. So there was this newfangled social media network called TikTok, and I was on TikTok, and I saw those boys doing a viral dance to a Weekend song, and I thought they were absolutely hilarious. And I remember writing down in my notebook, contact their agents and see if they were up for doing a show. That next day, my brother-in-law called me. My brother-in-law is a lawyer. He represents a lot of sports stars, a lot of TV stars. He called me and he said, you know what? He said, one of my clients really, really wants to do a reality series. And I was like, okay, what are they called? He said, Jordan Haynes. Jordan, who was on that clip. So I was like, okay. So connected us on a WhatsApp call, and they were, right, we're moving into this house in Essex. It's happening in a month's time. So I was like, right, leave this with me. The only problem at the time was, how do we get cameras inside a house when there is a national lockdown and everyone has to stay 6 feet apart and all that kind of thing? So the at-home with series in the traditional style, it couldn't be done. So I remember I turned around to the exec at True North and I said, why don't we let them film them themselves? I saw them from a clip on TikTok where everybody filmed themselves. Why don't we get these specially made mounts, specially made camera phones, and let them film everything themselves? Obviously with a very small camera crew, stood 6 feet away at all times, directing them, producing them. And MTV really liked that and commissioned a series off the back of it. But it was kind of as a result of TikTok kind of exploding, and me kind of thinking, that style is so popular at the moment, people filming themselves, but what we haven't seen yet is that transfer to, or translate on sort of the silver screen in TV, and that was kind of how it came about, really.
Yeah, congrats. Well done. That's good. Do we have questions? Is anyone put their hand up? They've got questions. Yeah, already questions. I'll come to the front in a sec. Who put their hand up? Sorry, there was somebody over there, right? Okay, there's one person over there. I'm going to come to you in a minute, and then there's one person over there. Okay, one person there, one person there. If we run over to those people, you put your hand up. Keep your hand up for the guys on the mics. And then be ready, Musanna, just a question for you around how you made the move into development, right?
Yeah.
Can I ask you on that?
Of course, yeah. I paid attention to the needs of the business. I think that's really vital to sort of understanding how you can contribute to the development process. I joined Tom, who's the MD of Pure Fiction TV at a time when it was just two of us, and there was so much development support needed because, you know, as humans, we only have capacity for so much. So it meant being able to sort of participate in writers' meetings and take notes, or to be able to go to new writing showcases and engage with new writers and understand the landscape out there. And I think it's something that all of you have the capacity to do in any company you work for. If you're an office runner and you have the opportunity to proofread a script, or to go to a theatre show by a writer who they are working with, then you'll benefit so much from being able to sort of position yourself to make that move into development. It's just understand the needs of the business.
Fabian has so much to say. He has 2 microphones. Let's start over in the middle. It's the person who raised their hand. Yes, you have a microphone.
Hi, my name is Saluke Sangese. I'm from Roehampton University.
Nice to meet you.
I was just wondering, how did it work translating TikTok and the whole buy from social media to actual television? Did it work out for you?
Yeah, so that series ran for 2 series, and I think the thing at the time, again, I think one of the things in development, and I'm sure you guys will agree, is sort of staying ahead of the curve and keeping on top of trends. And I just remember at the time, everybody was talking about TikTok. Everybody was locked in the living room doing these stupid dances, and we'd never seen anything like it before. It was so different to Instagram and Facebook and all of that kind of thing. And I just remember thinking, this is where I found those guys, so this is how we should keep it, because the authenticity behind the idea was from a video that I'd seen on TikTok. And luckily, sort of MTV were like, actually, do you know what? We've noticed this TikTok thing, and we want to run with that. And what was interesting about that series when they commissioned it was they commissioned it first for MTV International social media channels. So it went out on YouTube, Facebook, every social media channel that they had, first of all, before it was repackaged for the MTV linear channel. So it was a digital first commission, which at the time, I don't think MTV had really done before. So that was kind of the onset of that. But I mean, it worked out really well for me. It was my first ever commission. I was absolutely buzzing. So I was very happy with it, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Should we pop over there? Hello.
Hi, I'm Peters. I'm from University of Westminster, and I'm year 3, final year. I'm studying television production. I have a question for Fabian.
Well done, yes, yeah.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts on resilience. And you mentioned that we often hear no in this industry. I wonder, how did you personally stay motivated and keep your confidence when rejections happen repeatedly?
I think for me personally, I've always been quite a confident person anyway. But one thing that I noticed when I went into development, that confidence was knocked, because I was like, what do you mean you're not all in love with every single idea that I have? Like, I know better than all of you. And actually that was within maybe 6 weeks, I realized, hang on a minute, no, that's not how this works. And I think speaking to other people, speaking to more senior people in the team, friends of mine that worked in development, that was the big takeaway from all of them. That's what they told me, like, you are going to hear no more than you hear yes. So resilience is always the name of the game. So it was kind of speaking to other people and that kind of hands-on experience of like, actually, you know, all of these ideas I love, that I'm so passionate about, they're not all going to get commissioned, because also there's not endless pots of money at channels and all of that kind of thing. So yeah, it was something that was very much knocked into me very quickly in my development career.
All right.
I also think, just to add to that, I think working in teams is like a really important thing.
It's a team sport.
It is. And I think if you're in a team in development, I think you can support one another. You've got allies. I think that makes a massive difference. There are some companies that are small and they've got one person in development. I don't know how they do that. I think I couldn't do that. So I think like having a team around you where you're all going in the same direction is...
That's so true, because I think back to when I was working at Multi-Story, we developed a few documentaries with a girl called Georgia Harrison, and she'd basically been on Love Island, The Only Way is Essex, and she was dating a guy. He, you know, took a video of her having sex with him against her will, sold it online, and she got this guy convicted, and we made those documentaries with her. And I remember at the time, that wasn't my idea. I was filming away, and when I came back, the idea was handed to me when it was in paid development, but the idea was someone else's, but everybody played a part in the development of that. You know what I mean? It wasn't just one person. You know, someone wrote the deck, someone, you know, dealt with the agents. It was very much a team sport. And I think on the whole, development is very much about everybody mucking in and doing a part, playing a part.
Totally. Thank you. And thank you for your question. Can we get into the process a little bit of development? Because you've said a couple of words that maybe people in the room may not know, things like a deck, like, you know, so let's get into that process with Musanna. Let's start with you around the process of development has really changed. We can talk a bit about that, but certainly over the last few years, there is an incredibly high expectation of the amount of work you have to do in development to get an idea away. There used to be certainly a culture in Unscripted where it was you could have a coffee with a commissioning editor and you would walk out with a commission. That was definitely the way it used to be. That is no longer exists anymore, and actually is a really good thing, because that was often going to the same people all the time. So now you have to work a lot harder. Tell us about, though, drama development in particular, with maybe a couple of examples. And we've got a bit of a pitch deck, haven't we, that you've put together. So just tell us a bit of that at the beginning.
So drama development is really about giving people a good impression of the show that you want to make, because that can mean so many different sort of like materials that you're going to give to commissioners, whether it's a full script or a pitch deck or a just even if it's a verbal pitch, or if it's an attachment with an actor or a director who they are really excited to work with. And it's sort of understanding what is the best impression of the show that I'm going to give to the buyers for them to have the confidence to take it on. Because there's different needs for different projects, and the more ambitious it is, the more sort of expectations you will have around what you can bring to the development up front. And here's an example of a pretty ambitious pitch deck for a big show that we're currently developing, and which is out to market and has some A-list interest, because we are at the point where we are thinking about attachments, because this is an epic, ambitious superhero spy show. And it's not something that I think you can almost confidently just know is going to be made without some sort of confidence from the commissioners, whether it's, is there a big star attached, or who's the writer? And we do have a really good writer attached, Seth Sinclair, who wrote on shows like Pennyworth and on upcoming seasons of The Night Manager and The Day of the Jackal. So you just know that he can deliver. And it's just understanding the sort of what is the best impression of this show for them to sort of have.
But just on that, that was probably, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 pages or something. But that wasn't just your. How did that even come about?
So this is actually, what do you mean, the pitch deck itself?
Yeah, the pitch deck, because presumably there's more than that, right? More than just 8 pages, is there?
That was actually the full pitch deck.
Holy shit! Well done, God, that's amazing. Maybe there's a reason you've not got it away yet. I don't know. No, but that's a dope. I mean, that's amazing. You've only done 8 pages. Just so, who came up with the concept of that? Who wrote it? What participation did you have in it?
So this is an interesting one, and I think this is also one that everyone who works in development is going to face with. This is a passion project of the managing director Tom's since back when he was working at a different company, like 10 years ago. And this one that he had then, he didn't get it off the ground, and now we're trying again. And because the market slightly shifted, and There's in different buyers, so not everyone has seen the material, and there's a real appetite for the show based on the sort of zeitgeisty themes that it has. And it was based on a book called The Violent Century by Lavi Tidhar. And as I mentioned, we have the writer Seth Sinclair who's on board, and it's out to market, and we're just hearing interest. But with this one, the reason why it doesn't have massive details such as the breakdown of episodes 2, 3, 4 and onwards is because we also, as producers, we need to be malleable about what is the commissioner's take on this material, what is the sort of thing that they take away from this pitch deck that's really interesting, whether it's the world of the show or the characters, and understanding how can we nurture it towards a vision that is aligned with both the producer and the commissioner and the writer.
And a question, what point would you do the script? Would you do a sort of script outline for the commissioner? Not yet, or have you got that?
With this one, we did commission a script because the book is so unwieldy that we wanted to see it on page, because you can see from the pitch deck that there's such a world building aspect to the show, and it's like, how do you sort of condense that into a pilot?
Yeah.
And we have a really strong pilot.
So presumably on something like that, you would be, to get a commission, you would need that deck, a script, scripts,
Yeah. I would
and then
say so.
attachments, meaning key actors, and a director.
We do actually have a great director attached, so yeah, it's
But you can't say, can you?
You nearly said their name, but don't say it because you could get in trouble. So that, and how long would that process typically take, do you think?
it just honestly depends on the availability of the writer.
Okay.
Because we are so writer-led at our company, and we want to be able to give them the time and space. And in Seth's case, because he kept getting big gigs like The Night Manager and The Day of the Jackal, it's probably taken about a year on working in development like this, but it can be smaller depending on how available they are.
And longer in scripted, right, too, can be much longer.
It can be longer because of one thing that they do not tell you about before you go into scripted, and that's it doesn't begin with a good script, it begins with a good deal. And trying to negotiate a good deal, which in this case would be the rights to the book or the rights or a deal memo with the writer, that can take forever depending on how good your lawyers are. But thankfully we have fantastic lawyers, so we were able to work out a good deal.
Congratulations. Well, good luck. I hope you get that away. Let's, Fabian, let's talk about yours. Just to throw in a sort of example of what our company, just the length of time for some developments. We've just had a commission actually from National Geographic. We started the development in January 2003. Sorry, my God, that would be really frightening. 2023. So that's 2.5 years to get it, and that's a documentary series. But it isn't actually owned, it's a lot of money, and it's quite a lot of access, et cetera, et cetera. So, but just to tell us your experience in sort of in this kind of shows you make.
I would say on the whole in unscripted, it can be anywhere between 6 and 9 months, if not longer, you know, in terms of sort of getting something commissioned, because obviously there's a lot of back and forth. Like sometimes you will get a commissioner saying, can you just send me a top line? You send them a top line. I'm interested. Can you flesh it out more? You're going back and forth for months and months and months and months and months. Now, there can also be examples of times when it can be really quick. I've just developed a docuseries for Channel 5, which is an access piece. And that was 8 weeks from me putting the deck in to it being commissioned. We filmed a taster tape in the middle, but that is so rare. Most of the time it is so lengthy. The pitch decks that we're doing now in unscripted are possibly as long, if not longer than scripted. You are asked to go into detail to minutiae of what every part of the program is. Example episodes, you know, if it's a cast related thing, it's so in depth now. So it can really vary, but on the whole, it's a really lengthy process.
That's why I was shocked by your 8-page, because we've just done a deck which is 80 pages, which is an unscripted. We're going to come to a couple more questions, because one of the things that I don't want you all to feel here is that, like, Jesus, why are we going to bother with this? Like, we're waiting years to get a commission. It takes a really long time.
It's dead fun.
Most of the stuff you can't get away.
I will say another 50 pages is for the pilot.
Okay.
Different.
So I don't want you to feel that way, because there's some amazing stuff about working in development. Also, there's a big question I'm sure a lot of you have, which is, and the industry, by the way, the sort of content industry, which includes television, film, is having a slightly existential crisis around what does content look like? Where's everyone going to make money? Because a lot of it now is in short form, is on TikTok, is on YouTube, of which we have not discussed any of that, any of us. And actually, my company's never made anything for YouTube. we may do soon, but we haven't done. We've only made them in the traditional way. And that can mean that you're not being very nimble with your ideas, and maybe you're not very zeitgeist because you're like, it takes a year to get, 2.5 years to get a commission, it takes 3 years to get a commission, etc. Get ready with questions because we're going to show another clip, for a clip of yours. Does anyone want to put their hands up with questions? Okay, we're going to go to, sorry, you had your question up last time, didn't you? Let's go to this lady in the second row, and then we'll go to that person at the back there. Sorry, I can't quite see your face, so sorry. But you got your hand up, so it's all good. Somebody's coming. Prepare your question. Watch clip.
Hi, welcome.
Hello, Nan. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good.
Excited. Yes. Are you ready to see your transformation?
I am ready. Nice to meet you. Pleased to meet you. Oh, you look so sweet. It might be my last opportunity, and I'm ready for it. Cheers.
Cheers. They look great together.
You're quite possessive of... Is that possessive?
This could test the waters, you know, this one.
Oh, baby, don't get me started. On fire all the time. I'm really gonna give it to you. My flames will hit the sky.
I'm Kathy, I'm Courtney's nan, and I'm 55, and I come from Hertfordshire.
What look are we going after?
I'm going to leave it down to your expertise.
Really?
Yeah.
I have never, ever known my nan to go on a date.
I haven't really done a lot of dating because I got married at 16, and then I've really just put my heart and soul into my children and my dogs and my garden and my family. So, yeah, it's high time I got glammed up and got a date, eh?
I think she needs somebody who is grounding. You need to love dogs because she's got 3 of them and they're her babies.
What makes you laugh in a guy? What kind of thing would make you go?
I don't, because I'll cry in a minute, I'll get all upset. I hate big-headed, entitled people, but I can't say that on there. For their own importance, massive egos, can't stand it.
Right, let's get you ready for this day.
Well, hello there.
Hi, Kathy.
Right, and your name is?
Andy.
Hello, Andy.
She looks good, though. She actually does look really good.
I have been given an envelope, which I think as my glamorous assistant, you probably ought to open and find out what we're doing.
I have no idea.
Life painting.
Right, OK. OK.
After you. Let's get the door for you. Hello.
Hello.
My favourite bit of that is when he says, you ought to open this, and then he does it. It's like, oh, what happened there? Anyway, do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, so that was actually an idea developed for ITV's Fresh Cut strands. Now, Fresh Cuts is a strand that's been running for, strand of films that's been running for about 4 years, and I think it's in its 4th year. So that was developed last year. Now, Fresh Cuts is ITV's initiative to get first-time disabled and black directors into sort of producer-director roles. So basically, we made 6 series, that was one of them, and it was made by a disabled first-time producer-director called Stephanie. Now, that was the first time as well that the Fresh Cut strand had gone into sort of digital first. So it was YouTube and ITVX first. So what we had to do was develop a slate of 6 ideas, pitch them to the channel, and hopefully get them all past the channel. Now, with that one, that was basically, you know, those sort of paint and talk things that you watch on YouTube. We were looking at doing one of those, but I was like, that's just a bit boring. People do that quite a lot. You know what I mean? You don't need to switch ITV1 on or ITVX on to see that. How do we sort of like turn the dial on that? And I was walking out of ITV's office in London, and they were doing a screening of My Mum, Your Dad. So I was like, that's it. Let's get people to date the nans, or get the nans, send them out on dates. So we basically came up with this sort of YouTube format where we got disabled makeup artists to glam up a nan and send them out on a date in the hope that they find love. But the reason I wanted to show that clip was because basically that was produced, directed, edit produced, further development done by first-time producer-director Oz as part of an initiative, of which there are a lot of in TV for development and production. And I think they are invaluable, and a lot of people have benefited from those kind of initiatives. So eyes peeled to different websites like Screen Skills and stuff like that, because you will find them on there.
Good tip. Let's throw to a couple of questions. We'll start at the back. Yes. Do you have a microphone? Yeah, great. Who are you?
Hello, my name is... There we are. Now it works. My name is Hamza Hussain. I'm a media production student at Birmingham City University. My first question is that obviously from what I've learned in this session, development is such a tricky thing. And then, of course, trying to come up from, from a concept to an idea to a pilot can take quite a long time. But once you've got that concept going, how do you keep something like a series? How do you keep it running? And how do you almost sort of improve from the last series of a show or anything you have developed?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
How do you improve from from the sort of the initial spark of the idea to the actual series, do you mean?
As in, like, if a first series of a show went really well, what type of process do you do in development to improve it even further?
Okay, so like further development of an existing series.
Yes.
There was a series that I made out in Dubai for BBC Three called Dubai Hustle. We made the first series, and it followed these young Brit real estate agents out in Dubai trying to sell these £1 million mansions. And the first series did quite well. And basically the channel said to us, we want to make it even bigger and grander and that kind of thing. And what we did with that was basically we kind of went in that period, and we went and we wrote up a whole new deck detailing all the different ways that we would make this grander, bigger. The actual characters themselves had moved on. They were selling bigger houses, but also we introduced different format points and stuff like that. So what I do a lot of the time, because I'm sorry, this is my mantra, but no idea is a new idea, really. Everything is kind of borrowed, or, you've kind of seen it elsewhere. It's just how you format that. So I was looking at things like Selling Sunset, and all those different programs which are in a similar vein, and seeing how they did their master interviews and all of that kind of thing, and just working out how we could make that slightly bigger and just slightly more glamorous and that kind of thing. So for me, it was very much just, it wasn't the biggest redevelopment, but it was just really subtle nods. And we went back to the channel, and they loved every idea, every new format point, the way that we were going to shoot the master interviews and that kind of thing. They really liked it. So that sort of worked out for us. Yeah.
I'll say for drama, the advantage you have compared to fictional films is that it's about character. And it's about your emotional attachment to the characters over the series. And so you just want to interrogate, how can I make the internal and external stakes matter even more for the next season? As like a public example, you think of a show like Reacher, about Jack Reacher. He comes into town in the first season, he solves the crime. You love him. You're like, this guy's really awesome and he's competent and strong, etc. And then by season 3, the mission is about him trying to seek revenge on someone who killed his old military friend. And you're like, I care about this character so much, and now I'm on board to just follow this really personal mission. So it's just about understanding the internal and external stakes of the characters and really taking them to more and more emotional places.
It's a really good question, because I think like there can be complacency over returning series sometimes of not improving, and I think most people, certainly broadcasters, are trying to change the way a new series might be. So we have a lot of returning series, thankfully, and we are constantly in a conversation around how we might improve it. But you got to be careful, because you don't want to sort of bake something that's already working as well. So it's a constant conversation you're having. Yeah, it's a great question. Thank you. Hopefully that's answered it. Should we come to you? And then we might come to you as well. We may as well come to you because you're next to one another. Unless you've got the same question, that would be weird. But maybe.
Hi, I'm Grace. So I'm originally from the north, but I'm
Good for you. Good for you.
I'm studying at the University of Arts in London, and my question's for Musanna, if that's okay.
Sure.
So right now I'm doing a lot of pre-production work for different documentaries, but I really want to move into scripted drama. So as someone that started off as a documentary trainee, how did you find that transition into drama, and what are the main differences, do you think, in the pre-production process?
I think the thing that I found really sort of the stage of documentary which I connected with the most was in research, and sort of researching into the skeleton, the treatment, and bringing all the sort of specifics to a story that you just don't know where it's going to go. And it's sort of being able to apply those in the sort of company that you are able to sort of access in drama. I think that really is the harder part in drama, which is being able to sort of work full time for a company, because you might start off as an office runner, you might start off as an agent's assistant, but it's being able to sort of tap into that same skill set and apply them to the things that you read. And the development team will notice that you are really skilled at that, and you'll be off to the races.
Can I just add to that really quickly? Something that I read on LinkedIn the other day, which actually is something that I've always done and I think everyone should do. You know, if you like a TV program, you think, God, I'd love to work on that, watch the credits and see the names and reach out to those people, send them a lovely email telling them how much you love their program, because, you know, we've all got big egos in TV, let's be honest. So send them an email and just say that you'd love a bit of work experience, you'd love to shadow them. I've gotten loads of different jobs and bits of work experience by doing that.
Can I also add one more thing, which is that if you look at the sort of documentaries you are making and you look at the drama houses who kind of make stuff in that vein, you might have a more common interest in there, because there are so many documentaries and dramas that actually tell the same story. So think about what you are making and reach out to the companies who make those kind of shows, like, you know, like Warp Films, who do a lot of like drama focused stuff, and whoever the companies are who made The Hack and Mr. Bates vs. the Post Office, etc., because there's such an interlink between their stories and documentary filmmaking there.
That's a very good tip. Actually, they're both really good tips, those, because I think it's amazing how, and I've done a lot of roles in television, and it's amazing how few emails you get of people saying, have you just got time for a coffee? Almost nobody does it, weirdly. And even though that, I think it is a good thing to do, because most people in television will find time to have a coffee and try and give you some advice. So I think it's good. Identifying the company or people you want to work with is a really good thing, because that might, it might sort of, how you might have some synergy with your values or your interests that you have. Should we go to you?
Hey up, I'm Finn from Huddersfield.
The Hood.
Are you both from Huddersfield? Yeah. Are you together? Are you dating? No. All right, sorry. That was a really off question. I'm so sorry about that. That's like, I shouldn't have asked that question. But it would have been fun if you were. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
I'm wondering what you guys want to come across your desk within the next year, because you are the first stage of what you like, what ideas being greenlit. What are you looking for right now, like the most? What are you intrigued to across your desk? And you're all in different areas, so it's all good to hear from all of you, really. Yeah.
Do you know, funnily enough, I had an interview a few weeks ago, and they asked me this question. But the interview was for sort of for a company, and it was a sort of reality and entertainment company. And I think that day, Broadcast, which is like the sort of TV scripted and unscripted industry trade Bible, had released a feature, and it was basically about sort of talent-led programming and the at-home series and that kind of thing. You're making one at the moment, aren't you? And basically my thing...
It's been announced, I can talk about it. Go ahead, it's all right.
I should talk about it because it's a really good one. My thing was, in that interview, I thought actually there are gaps in the market for these people that we see, you know, in the papers, we see them online, and we don't know anything about them beyond the headline. So for me, it was those kind of access pieces, like the sort of Victoria Beckham one that was on Netflix recently, the one that Danny's making, those people that you have seen so much of and don't really know about. For me at the moment, that is something that I'm really enjoying watching, all of those different kind of programs. So yeah, it would be the kind of peeking behind the scenes of someone's life that you have never kind of had a sort of a vision into before, if that makes sense.
I'll say that I'm really keen on a grounded sci-fi series. One of my all-time favorite shows is The Leftovers. And like, I've always thought of like dystopia and sci-fi as a way to sort of access sort of really personal stories like that show does about grief. And it's one of those that I might just encounter in a book. I might encounter with a writer who has a spec script or a pitch. It just depends. But that's certainly a sort of the North Star for me. I want to make a really good grounded sci-fi series.
I will answer the question in a second. I'm just going to come through a couple more questions, because I think your questions are brilliant, by the way. So has anyone got, do you want to put their hands up? Does somebody at the back put their hand up? Let's go there. I'm going to keep flipping from one side of the room to the next. Anyone this side?
I'm so glad people aren't asking questions, because I was terrified no one would ask anything.
No, well done. No one this. Where? So sorry. It's because you're so far out on my eye line. I apologize. Okay, so we're going to go here and here in 1 second, and I'm going to try and answer your question about where we're heading. So I'm trying to balance, because I'm running a company slightly different, so I'm trying to balance the stakeholders above me who are like, "Are you going to make more money?" I'm like, "I'm trying to make more money." So we are evolving as a company to try and do more formats and more fact-end. That is true, because the reason for that in the industry, and I'll be quick about this because it's sort of quite boring, but all television companies are trying to hold on to IP, so intellectual property. So we're all trying to hold on to something where we can own that, exploit it in like global versions of whatever we're making, because that really is the only way to try and make money. Now, it's not that I'm obsessed by making money, but actually to build the company, to grow it, to keep evolving, we have to have more money coming in. Otherwise, I can't afford to keep the development team to keep growing as a company. I think where we're heading though is, so we have evolved, because we're very traditional in like history and docs, like access documentaries. We have converted some of that access documentaries. We're making a series with Wayne and Colleen Rooney for Disney. That's been announced. So we're in the middle of filming that. We're doing a couple more big, like famous people sort of access documentaries. We're not doing in the vein of Victoria Beckham, which is highly entertaining, but is quite well managed. I think this is hopefully
a bit too much fashion and not enough personal life.
And also, they never talked about Brooklyn Beckham. Exactly. But anyway, so I think we're trying to do a bit of that, and we are getting into formats that we'll be able to construct those and sell them into America, especially America, because that really is where all the money is. There is big money in the UK, by the way. But it's the UK and America. Everywhere else is like, forget it, really. It's bits of money, unless you're in China, where there's obviously tons of money too. Should we start here? Hello.
Hello, my name's Olivia, also from the North, but I study at BCU. I just wanted to ask, you did mention earlier on about emailing companies or email someone that you want to work with, but I did want to ask, like, when it comes to applying for opportunities with a production company, sometimes it might not be so easy to see. So if you just email them your portfolio, would that be too aggressive, or would you say that will be acceptable depending on what it is?
Do you want to try and answer?
Yeah, do you know, for me, the thing that I always did was first and foremost, every email that I've ever sent, I've tailored it to that person and to that company. So if I've seen that name on the end of the Traitors, I've told them why I love the Traitors and also why I would love to work with them, or why I'd love an opportunity. But what I do is don't make the email too lengthy, because people are busy and they're not always going to have the time to read a lengthy email, but attach a CV, I think, is the biggest thing. Even if you've not had any TV credits, think about the sort of transferable skills from the things that you've done at university or part-time jobs that you think would translate well in TV, and send them that. But I think for me, it's about personalizing that first email, because like I said before, people are never going to be unhappy to hear that someone liked the program that they made. You know, it's a really great feeling to hear that. So I think, personalize the email and then attach a CV and ask for a coffee.
I completely agree with Fabian that you want to know exactly who you're emailing, because I think it's quite disheartening from our side when we get an email which just feels like the person has no idea who they're emailing because they haven't quite looked into what they are, and therefore I don't quite know how I can add value to a conversation with them if they just want to do something that's completely different from what we're doing. It's worth offering up if you kind of want to have a Zoom or a coffee. Zoom is particularly great considering like the companies, like you just don't know where someone's going to be. That's what I would say.
I also concur. Be pushy. You should be pushy, but do your research about that company, about the reasons why you think that particular company or that particular person is relevant to your experience or what you can offer. I think that's definitely ask for a Zoom or a coffee or something. That's good. And try and identify individuals. Like, definitely go through heads of talent or talent execs. Lots of companies have got those, but I would also try and identify executive producers or producers. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
No worries. We had a question at the back. Yes.
Hi, I'm Daisy Bayliss, also from Huddersfield.
Come on, let's be Huddersfield.
Invention. This is amazing.
Well done.
I'm currently studying film production at Salford Uni. You mentioned commissioning a script and finding a writer / other creatives. How do you do this, and where do you tend to look for talent?
It's a lot of it kind of is built on sort of the relationships you already have. So you want to go to those people first, but to build those relationships, all this comes from, do I like their writing on the page? And that begins with relationships with agents. You want to see a sample of their writing. And if you like it enough, you want to know how can this sort of what is the value of this script and how can it add to the project that we're doing, which in this case was a book. So it kind of begins with reading a sample, and because writers are your currency, and that is something that you want to sort of hold on to. If you find a really good writer whose writing you think is applicable for all sorts of genres, then you'll be in really good standing with them and with the future of your projects.
We've got about 10 minutes ish, so we're definitely gonna come to more questions because I think you're asking brilliant questions. So can you put your hands up, and then okay, there's somebody at the back over there. Can you see that person at the back, very back row? Oh yeah, okay, cool. And then anyone on this side? I feel like this side are like really performing well, and then they come on this side. What's going on? Like more questions. So, surely somebody's got a question from this side. No, okay. There was another. Okay, there's a question from somebody in the third row. 1, 2, 3. Thank you. Okay, we're just going to ask these guys though. Prepare. What do you think the sort of biggest challenges are now that we're facing in the sort of industry, Musanna?
I think the American sort of like the massive sort of need for co-production models and the size of drama budgets that's definitely a massive one. It just means that development gets slowed down because you become more like feature film financing, where you're trying to find all the pots of money to try and be able to make something. Yeah, I think that's probably the biggest one right now.
Yeah.
I think it's how people are sort of consuming TV now. I think there was a couple of months ago, it came out that YouTube now, I think, is the second most watched sort of platform for programming in the UK. I think it's the BBC, and then it's YouTube, then it's ITV now. So I think that is changing. More people are sort of watching stuff on YouTube, the sort of whole creator economy model. I think that is a thing that people who are in sort of traditional TV are trying to get their heads around and work out, how do we protect the industry that we love? How do we keep making money and all of that kind of thing? So I think that's a really big challenge, because people are now just filming something at home, putting it online, and there are 1 million, 2 million people watching it.
You started very back with that question.
Hi, my name is Christian. I'm originally from West London, but I study in Luton. As you said, this is for Fabian. As you said before, you had a TikTok idea for your TV show, and like, do you get intimidated when you have like a newer idea, when you go into rooms with people that are already in development, that already have like had many ideas before?
Oh my God, yeah, I remember going into a pitch session with that idea, the Living the Dream one, and basically someone else was talking about this kind of like, it was for like, I think Channel 4, more for this kind of like travelogue, which is about art and was so sort of stuffy and that kind of thing, and really high concept. And I was like, well, there's these guys from Love Island and they're moving in together. So I was kind of like, what? So yeah, no, I mean, definitely. I also, I think because of generally the genre of TV that I kind of develop and produce, a lot of people will turn their nose up at that. And I think for me, now later on in my career, I'm very, very happy to walk into a room and just be so blasé in people's face about it, because I don't think that, I should have to feel like it's any less than or not as interesting as, a sort of docu-series or whatever the case may be. So I definitely get intimidated when I walk into rooms and sort of give my, sort of sugar-coated ideas, but I just do that thing. I puff my chest up and I just keep talking until people get bored, basically. Yeah.
Thank you.
By the way, I don't think that feeling ever goes away. Like, I'm obviously much older, and you was a commissioning editor at the BBC and Channel 4, and now still when I go into pitch to Netflix or Disney, I still feel like intimidated by that. I still get nervous, like to pitch. I mean, I now have things that I do to help me pitch. So I write down like 6 bullet points I absolutely need to land in that pitch meeting to try and get the idea away or to get it into development or whatever. So there are things that I use, tools I use to help me. But a lot of it is about preparation, in truth, for me personally.
Yeah.
But it's a great question. Thank you. Yes.
Hello, my name's Karina. I'm from the States, and my question's for the entire panel. So if you could give a piece of advice to yourselves when you were first starting out, what would you tell yourselves?
Oh God. I just kind of have a moment.
Yeah, sure. I think for me, I don't know if you guys know, in the past few years, there's been what we call the commissioning slowdown. Obviously the sort of financial crash globally led to fewer programs being commissioned because there's much less advertising spend and all that kind of thing. And I think we were having a period where, you know, there was lots of money in TV and now it's not. And I think the thing that I would have said to myself at the very beginning is sort of keep on keeping on, basically, because a lot of people have left the industry. And I, you know, right now, I'll be really, really honest. I left a job and I'm looking for a new one. And there are days when I wake up and I'm like, my God, am I ever going to get a job again? But I just keep thinking, I love this. I love this industry. I love what I do. And I'm just sort of keeping on because I believe in this industry and I believe in the great people that work in this industry. So hopefully it will turn around.
I suppose in drama, it's just knowing that you're in for the long game. Some of these shows will take years and years and years to make. As an example, the managing director of Pure Fiction, Tom, he was a producer on Shogun, and that was almost a 10-year journey to get to the screen. So it's just understanding, do I love development enough to want to face the sort of reality that this could take years and years to get to the screen? Like you might not get your first script editing gig for 5 years and after you've started working in development. And that's okay because you're here for the long term. It's something that you can do until you die, really.
Don't measure your success against anyone else's. Your time will come.
Yeah.
I mean, mine is, and I think I mentioned it before, sorry, I was trying to identify in the audience. Mine was, this is what I said before, really. I think you please find a mentor, and it might not be the first person you land on, but find somebody who's experienced in the industry, or you've identified them as somebody who's going to help you as well, and could be practically help you as well as just guide you mentally through it. Because I had that, and I've always had that, and I think it's definitely helped me. There's no way I would be here now if I had not had that.
Totally
so
agree.
keep on finding a mentor, and that may change over your career, whatever, as well. But just identify that person and latch yourself onto them and meet them once every couple of months, even just to talk through where you're at and what advice you need. That's would be mine. That was a brilliant final question. That was the last question. Sorry, maybe I should have said that before. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate it. There's some really, really brilliant questions. Thank you to both panelists, Fabian and Musanna.
Thank you, Danny.
Thanks so much. Thank you.